Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Quantum Zen Online Sangha's first live stream Dharma talk. This is a test for all of us. I see there's already people joined us, which is great. I'm here with Vivian. How do I say your last name? Casimir?
Casimir, perfect.
Casimir, okay.
Yeah.
I just can't get that accent that you have. I keep
okay.
trying.
That's okay. I'm not attached to the name.
Good. Anyways, what I usually do too is I like to kind of read the chat and say hello to everybody. If you haven't already, just go into the chat and let us know where you are living. Maybe you can let us know if you're practicing with the Quantum Online Sangha or if you're just tuning in on the YouTube channel here. We do have Adam here. Adam's very active in the online community. Hey, Adam, good to see you. He says hello.
Hello.
Oh, Richard, which actually says Richard. I'm guessing this is Edith because the picture is Edith, but it says Richard. But Richard or Edith, I'm going to guess it's Edith. Hello. Good to see you. John's here. He said he would be here, and he is here. Hey, John. And Liz is here. Good to see you, Liz. M. Johnson, good to see you. M. Johnson says, gosh, okay. It is Edith. She's clarifying that in the chat. Edith from Amherst, Massachusetts. Awesome. Oh, Kathleen Carr's here from Tallahassee, Florida. Good to see you. Practice the Cypress Tree Zen Group and the Online Sangha. Awesome. Kevin from Berkeley, California. I'll be going to Berkeley actually next Thursday. That's just a random fact, but I thought I'd let you know. Let's see. M. Johnson saying Quantum Zen Online. Greetings from Michigan City, Indiana. Edith from Maine. Yes, we got it. And John from the Czech Republic. Okay. So I'm sure there's more people chiming in. Go ahead and do that. Oh, Janice is here from Ecuador. Good to see you. Wow, some people I haven't seen in a while. All right, a lot of people here. So again, this is our first streaming Dharma talk for the Online Sangha. And the way we usually present our talks in the Quantum School of Zen is we'll have an opening talk. And today we have an opening talk from Vivian. Hi, Vivian.
Hello, hello.
I'm going to read a little bit about her. She sent me her bio this morning. She is Canadian and grew up in Morocco. I don't know if I knew that. You might have mentioned that before.
No, you didn't know.
No, that was cool. I saw that. It's like, wow. But you spent 30 years in the U.S. Looks like you came to Zen in your 20s.
Yeah.
But started practicing officially with was it the New York Chogi?
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
Okay.
Exactly.
So that's 2014. Cool. And then you moved back to Canada in 2017. That I know, with the Online Sangha was created, right from the very beginning.
Yeah.
You took precepts online. You were were you at the first precept ceremony or the second one? I think it was the first one.
I don't remember. Yeah. Yes.
I think it was the very first online precept
Yes.
ceremony. We
You're
could
right.
only do 5 at that time, and you took those 5.
Yeah.
Let's see. And then you became a Dharma teacher in 2023, which was the first precept ceremony that we had 10 precepts offered. So,
Wow.
Let's see what else. University professor, worked on Wall Street. Now, I didn't know that either. Then you decided to follow your passion, training people for mind-body alignment with meditation, breathing techniques, and martial arts movements. Didn't know that. And if you do know Vivian, you may not know this, but she loves the snow and skiing as much as hot mint tea in the Sahara Desert. That's a very unique fact. I've never seen that before. Anyways, I'm happy you're here doing this.
Well, thank you. Thank you for.
Yeah, Vivian will give the opening talk. I'm Jason. Some of you know me in the Online Sangha. I'm a teacher in the Quantum School of Zen. I teach for Empty Gate Zen Center and a lot for the Quantum Online Sangha. I do a lot of different things. Started practicing in 1997 in Seattle. Spent some time at the Providence Zen Center, which is our head temple in America, and done a lot of different things. And here I am. I just wanted to say hello to, let's see, I just don't want to miss anybody. Charles from Kansas Zen Center. Hey, Charles. Wojciech, I never pronounce your name right, but Warsaw. I saw your question there, Wojciech. And by the way, if you have a question during this talk, you can just put it in the chat. And I'll do my best to go through them. And of course, after the talk too, if you have a question about anything, Zen, meditation, life, your practice, any kind of question, you can put it in the chat because that's the way it's working when we stream like this. We can't see you, but you can see us. Let's see, Susan B. from California. Good. M. Johnson. Okay, saying Mercy. Yep. And Wojciech. Okay, cool. All right, Vivian. It's your turn to talk.
Thank you all for being here. And yeah, it's the first talk, so I have to set the tone. I have to be good for this online song thing. It's a lot of pressure, but I'm glad to be here with you guys. So this is my first talk ever, so I'm a bit nervous too. But I decided to talk about how I experienced Zen up to now in my life, how Zen helped me. Let's praise it that way. So as I said in my bio, I discovered Zen in my 20s. I was going through, as you know, Jason, through a big existential crisis. What the meaning of life, the big thing. And at that time, I felt like I was in a zombie land. Things were so dull. I didn't see any meaning in that. And I discovered a book a scientific book that said in the introduction, Zen and quantum physics are the same. They both question the reality we live in. You see, I still remember the phrase so clearly. And I'm like, I know quantum physics. What is Zen? So this is how I started reading. That was in the 80s at that time. So I started reading about Zen, and this is how I even learned how to meditate through books. Sorry, through books. And I must say that saved my life, because what was interesting, I shifted from what is the meaning of life to who am I? So that the load on my shoulders just vanished, and I started my journey all alone. It never occurred to me to join a school. I was like reading and practicing and doing things like that. And it's only later, much later on, I was in New York City at that time. And I was talking to a friend, and I was telling him, I can't find a school that really suits me. New York is big, New York City is big, but I tried several schools. And he said to me, why don't you try that one? It's about the don't know mind. I'm like, don't know mind? Oh, that looks cool. What is this? And this is how I discovered the Quantum School of Zen. And well, I enjoy it. I'm still here. And there's a few things I would like to mention. 3 things: the don't know mind, the meditation practice, and something that Bobby said once, and it stayed with me: simplicity. And so 3 things I want to talk about today. So don't know mind. So you know what it is. I'm not going to talk about it. But for me, explain to you my phases in the don't know. At the beginning, of course, the don't know is the experience in Kongan interview. That's the place for that. So at the beginning, when I started the interview, I was at the first level of don't know as a fact at that point. So when the teacher asked me, why are you eating? Or what do you eat? You know, the first Kongan, one of the first Kongan, what do you eat? I'm like, oh no, not really. He's asking me that. Of course, it's to stay alive. But it is, you see, the mind goes very quickly. And I was thinking, but it is in a Zen context. So maybe it means something else, but still a fact. Sorry. So my don't know at that point, when I answered don't know, I didn't want to look stupid. So I said, don't know is to stay alive, don't know. But this is a phase. The first phase is a fact. The second phase, oh, I'm so sorry. The second phase is what I call, these are just metaphor. It doesn't work that way, but for me, the second phase is when I understood the duality, the dual thinking, you know, in those Kongan. And at that point, I was looking for a clever answer. I knew you could not answer through the dual, and I was looking for a philosophical answer to that question. And of course, it doesn't work that way. And then the teacher elegantly answers, no, this is not the answer. So you failed the Quran. And the third level of don't know, and again, it doesn't go that on those stages, is for me. Sorry. Ooh. So the third level is when I finally understood that you have to connect with the Kongan. And I started dropping, you know, we all hear that, drop in your center. So I was slowly feeling that something else was happening. But somehow I was still attached to the words. And the teacher, it happened to all of us, I'm sure, says, no, but you are, but you are in the right direction. So I was like, oh, something is changing. At least I am in the right direction. And the fourth level of don't know is when I'm still in that phase, which is I drop. I think I dropped in my core. And that's interesting because I said that to a friend and he said to me, how do you know you are in your core? Ah, I think we don't ask ourselves enough that question. How do you know you're centered? How do you know you're grounded? How do you know you are in your core? So, sorry, I've dropped more, let's say, in my core, but that something happened. I'm still working on one Kongan that's more than 2 years now. But what I mean is the feeling I had is like I was not looking for an answer anymore. Let's put it in present tense. I'm not looking for an answer. I'm just looking for something to come up in a way. So in that stage, I feel my core. And what does it mean? For me, when I say that is I feel like I am heavy in terms of energy. I am grounded. I feel like someone else is breathing in me. I don't control my breathing. I feel like my mind is expanding. I feel peacefulness and I'm there. And just like with you, Jason, last time, I'm there and I don't know what to answer. But I am in that space of peacefulness and there. So that's, sorry, that's what I mean by my core. This is the way I feel it. And so that's the four levels of don't know, slowly understanding that don't know is really dropping there. It's a space of, for me, of emptiness. And you know what? That's interesting because when outside the Kongan interview, when I deal with people after that, I feel like I am calmer with them. I have more compassion. So that's how for me, I'm like, okay, today, Vivian, you're not centered because I feel the contraction of my body. And when I feel expansion, I know I am there, centered in that sense. My experience with Kongan, whenever I failed the Kongan in the past, whenever I failed, I was still happy. I was walking out of the room and I was happy because something was lifted from my shoulders. I felt like no matter what happened, I'm getting closer. I could not explain more than that. Closer to what? I don't know. I assume it was to my true self, but I did not know. But I felt like a joy, inner joy. That's my experience of the Kongan interview. Meditation now. So meditation, it's interesting because people ask me sometimes, "Oh, you do Zen meditation?" No, no, no. Does it bring? No, how do they phrase it? Does it remove stress or anxiety? And I smile. I understand what they mean, and I smile because, of course, we know it's not about that. But I smile, and I understand what they mean. And actually, I took a master class in Zen, in a meditation. And it's interesting to see how actually these are just benefits that meditation brings you. It's not the goal, but you can't help. This brings that. Like I'm sure you've heard of those brain wave, like beta wave. It's every day. You know, we have to think to work and blah blah blah. Once you meditate, you drop automatically in an alpha state, and that is more relaxing. So that's what people, I guess, are looking for when they want to get rid of the stress or the anxiety, is that level of peacefulness that you get at the first stage and in alpha stage. And then if you meditate deeper, or if you're good in meditation, if you are pretty familiar with meditation, you can reach theta wave. And theta is what they say it's a kind of hypnotic phase. And it's when they say children download all the programming of society and their parents, so they know how to function as a social being. So it's a kind of phase where you can actually heal, and that's proven in science. You can reprogram yourself and blah, blah, blah. But what is interesting is that in that phase, you feel more expansion in you, and you move away from fight and flight mode. So in that sense, you can understand why people feel the benefits of meditation. And the other brain wave, the deeper brain wave, is delta. And the delta is really professional, as I say, professional meditator. In that phase, that actually reminded me of don't know. And that's very interesting because you feel an expansion. You're peaceful. You are at one. I don't want to sound cheesy, but oneness. And what does it mean, oneness? We can even explore that. But you feel that you are connected to other human beings. You feel you are connected to life, to nature. There's a different feeling in that stage. So in that sense, it's just to give you the framing of meditation. It does good things, that's for sure. So my experience is that once I get up of my cushion, because this is my corner, once I move out of my cushion and I go by doing my day, it's not the same. You all know meditation practice is not the same every day. So that there are some days for me, I feel the same thing that what I experience in a Kongan interview, inner joy. I don't know why. I get up, I do my things, and I have a smile. I'm happy. I'm joyful. I prefer to say joyful. And I don't know what. I don't know why. I don't know what happened. But it doesn't matter to know what happened on the cushion. What it happens for me, what it means is that it cleared my mind. And that's something good in that sense. Other time, I feel inspired. I have ideas popping up, and I have to take down the notes for my clients, how I'm going to do this or do that. It's like intuition or creativity, whoops, pop up. Other time, I get up and I'm still frustrated at the moment I sat. So you see, you can't expect, you know that. I don't have to explain more. It's really different from one moment, one meditation session to another one. There's one thing that happened to me, and it's like being in a delta phase of meditation. I was sitting, and it was a very windy day. It was it was last summer. And I heard a big noise in the kitchen, but I didn't get up. I sat and I continued my practice. And suddenly, it was clear in my head what had happened. The window was open. The broom was standing close to the stove. So I saw it like in a movie. It fell, the broom fell, knocked down the cover of a pot, and both fell on the ground. That's it. And then I finished my meditation. I went to the kitchen, and guess what? This is exactly what had happened. On the floor, there was a broom and the cover. So what I mean is that when people say, you know, monks who meditate for years and years, they develop some kind of faculties or magic. It's not magic. It's just like when your mind expands, there are things like your intuition is there. It's like you awaken your intuition and you sense things differently. It doesn't happen to me all the time, but I'm just saying that sometimes you may be surprised with what happened to you, like that. There's a quote from Zen Master Bonshim, and I like that one. She says, in meditation, we all want to get enlightenment, but being enlightened doesn't mean you get anything. It means, on the contrary, you lose everything. You lose all your illusions about yourself. And that's something that stayed with me. You lose all your illusion about yourself. So what is left? Well, your true self then. And I remember, Jason, you did a video about that, and you said, don't force compassion. And I really like that one, because this is true. We think of normally, I have to be compassionate, I have to do. You don't force things. It's when you get to that point where you drop all illusion about yourself, what comes up is your true self. And naturally, you are compassionate. You don't need to force it. It comes up naturally. And that brings me to discipline. This is a word that people don't like. Those who want to try meditation, sorry, always say, "Oh, I don't have discipline." And I listened to someone give a talk a few weeks ago, not in a Zen school, sorry, in a different thing. And she said, the speaker said, disciplines actually comes from the same root as disciple. So if you look at disciple, remember why you decided to meditate, and then discipline goes away. So I thought that was kind of interesting to remind ourselves when we don't feel like, oh, I don't want to meditate today, like a burden. It's not a burden. You made a choice. And practice to reach that point in that sense. There's a scientist, neuroscience says that it's interesting. When you learn something new, you must practice very often at the beginning, because otherwise you lose it. And they say that the neurons, just like that, let's say, connect. And when you learn something else, there's new connection in the brain. But the new connections are very fragile. So if you don't have, let's say, discipline, if you don't continue the practice, it's like the neuron, the new connection disappear, and it goes back to the old connection. So that's just a reminder why we have to practice and practice, to really install in us a natural way of life, like brushing your teeth. You don't question it, you just do it. So the practice of meditation in that sense. And another thing that I like to explain why meditation is so powerful, the sitting meditation is so powerful. They are a scientist like Greg Braden, Nassim Al-Ramain, if you know those names, who said that the universe is like an hologram. So if you cut an apple, let's say in four, the 1/4 of the apple will have the memory of the whole apple. So they were making a link with meditation and saying, can you imagine how many atoms you have in your body? They all have the memory of the whole. So it's like having in ourselves a oneness, and we don't even remember it. So meditation brings you to that feeling of mind, body in oneness in that sense. The third aspect I want to talk about is simplicity. We heard that very often. We know it, but we hear that very often. It's like when Bobby said once in an interview, she said, life is simple. Things are so simple. It's us, our mind, that creates complication. And then it becomes hard to undo that, to reach simplicity. So it's not hard. It's just because it's hard for us to undo all of that complicated things we did to create that reality in that moment. And that reminded me of the now. What is the now when we are in the now? And that's another chapter. But for me, it's still linked to don't know, the state of don't know mind, when you are just connected there. And it's outside of time. It's not, linear. It's just a state. I would say that way. It's like a state of mind. You just are aware. And this awareness is big. So it's there's another quote that I don't remember who said that, forgive me, but it's one of our teachers who said the true mind revolution is to realize that there is no I. And that for me was a big trigger. Boom. So if there's no I, what is there? Oneness. What is oneness again? Well, it's for us to experience. That's our journey in that sense. And we hear very often language carries a duality. Yes, that's true. I mean, any student in semiotics or in linguistics know that we learn language is a representation of the real. And if I have an apple, which I don't, but let's say this is an apple, and I say to Jason, apple, he sees the object. But if there's no object in front of you, and I say to Jason, apple, he has a representation in his head, of course. So language is a representation. That means it has nothing to do with the real. It has nothing to do with the real apple. We can have a conversation about the apple without the fruit being here. So same thing with concepts. Forget about object. Think of concepts. What is oneness? What is love? What is compassion? We have to represent. We need a representation in our head. So then the representation becomes what we say in semiotics, the lie. It's not a real lie. It's like saying illusion. It's not the real illusion, but it's to say that this is not the truth. Remember, this is not the truth. This is just a representation. And of course, we know that we are all lost in the representation. So that's our job, to reconnect with the real, in that sense. And that reminded me something that Zen Master Sung Sang said about the sound. And like we assume that onomatopoeia, I think we said that way, is the real sound. Like if I say to Jason, what does a rooster do in English? From what I know, it's coucou-doudou with my French accent. But in French, it is cocorico. It's different. The rooster doesn't speak a language. I know you know, but it's good to be reminded of that. The rooster doesn't speak English or French, but the language shapes our reality. So what I hear is cocorico, you know. So Zen Master Sung San said in the introduction of the chanting book, when you hear the sound for exactly, I am paraphrasing it, paraphrasing him. When you hear the sound of the cricket, or you hear the sound of the dog barking, just for what it is, you become one with the sound. So what I mean is that when I read that, I'm like, oh, when I meditate, that's my little homework. When I meditate, I'm trying to leave my senses open, wide open, and hear for what they are. So if the rooster is chanting, I don't want to hear cocorico. I want to hear the sound the way it is. So that made me think of when we look at the floor, when we meditate, what do we see? When I listen to the dog barking, I hear wah wah in French. I don't hear woof woof. Can I go beyond language? Can I go beyond that representation? And when I look at the floor, what do I see? Can I go beyond the brown floor? What is my connection with the floor? When I drink tea, we all have heard be one with the tea. What does it mean? Can I go beyond the tea and I? What does it mean in that sense? So that opened my mind to trying to listen to the reality for what it is and not making anything. And we heard that from teachers, don't make anything, don't check, don't. But taking those sentences that they gave us, like don't check or don't make anything, to a point of deep, like for me, the don't know, to take it to a deeper level, you realize, yeah, holy shit, that's true in that sense. But yeah, I'm going to end with the third point I wanted to make is simplicity. And I'm thinking of an example of Musashi, the famous samurai in the Middle Ages in Japan. And he was known, because I read his biographies and very interesting, but he was known to challenge every samurai he wanted to defeat to show that he was the best. And at that time, he was followed. There was a Zen teacher who constantly was on his back, and his name was Takuan Soho, I think. I don't know why he was so obsessed with Musashi, but Musashi at some point went to the house of another big samurai, and he knocked at the door, and the butler came, and he said to the butler, "I want to challenge your master. Tell him to come." And the butler went, and he came back, and he said, "My master doesn't want to fight you. He wants to spare your life." And Musashi was, "Oh, what a coward. He thinks that he's better than me. Tell him to come." The butler went, and he came back with a flower. And he gave it to Musashi. Musashi took it. He looked at the stem, and if you know about the sword, he looked at the stem, and he saw that it was cut so beautifully, elegantly, and powerfully. I don't remember the description in the book, that Musashi realized that actually that samurai was really sparing his life. So it was like a lesson for him. You don't need to fight to become, the best of Japan. And he bowed and he thanked the butler for the samurai. And at that point, his life changed. So for me, there are moments like that in my training where sentences, very simple, it's about simplicity, very simple statement, make me realize something. We all heard about stories about monks who heard, I don't know, a sentence from the the Diamond Sutra and got enlightenment. The other one heard the rock hitting a bamboo and got enlightenment. And we all think of, yeah, when is my turn coming? But for me, it's not like enlightenment came when I heard those sentences, but it did something to me, awakened a little bit something in me. And one of those sentences is very, very simple. You're going to laugh, I'm sure, is when teachers say at the end, thank you for your practice. At the beginning, I heard that as, oh, that's cute, that's nice, thanking us. But you know what? This past year, it took a different turn. And it's for me, oh, wow, that's true. Thank you for working on your awakening to save the world. I was like, oh, if I hear that way, that's true. It's interesting. Thank you for taking your life now, the practice for awakening. Humanity needs it, in that sense. So that was for me, oh, that thank you is actually very important. Or also when the statement from Zen Master Bonshim, when enlightenment is about losing everything, losing all illusions about yourself, and then what is left. So these for me are triggers that I go to sometimes during the day to remind myself, like, your journey continues. Okay, don't take things for granted. So to end, I will say, I will leave you with that. Find your triggers. Keep your triggers in your life. Things that will remind you why you practice, and the fact that we all need to awaken to make this world a better place. So thank you all for your practice.
Thank you, Vivian. I didn't know that was your first talk. Congratulations. Yeah, there was a lot of content in there. If anyone has any questions, they can put it in the chat. It could be about anything about Vivian's talk, practice, Zen, don't know, any kind of stuff. It's funny when you mentioned about the Zen masters, like hearing a rock hit a piece of bamboo and waking up. Someone heard a wooden pillow fall to the floor and waking up. It's actually that simple. And all of us have had that experience before, but we don't believe it, or we don't recognize it. So some of you know I'm doing a platform sutra workshop at the end of this month. And it's the teachings from Huineng, the sixth ancestor of Zen. And in his teachings, somebody asked about the difference between an enlightened person and an ignorant person. And he said nothing, except the enlightened person realizes it right now in this moment, and the ignorant person ignores it. So we've had enlightenment experiences all the time. My teacher said it's 100 to 500 times a day. But we don't see it because you already said delusions cloud it. It could be whatever that delusion is. It could be I want, I don't like, I hate delusion. It also could be a nice Zen delusion clouding our view, or I want enlightenment view already clouds us. Take all of that away, then boom, your mind and this moment are not separate. You mentioned the chanting book. The line that I like that Zen Master Sung Song said in that foreword of the chanting book, he said, you don't hear the sound, you are the sound. I love how he says that, because we're always thinking we're sitting here listening and seeing. No, you are the rooster crowing. You are the dog barking. You are the brown floor in that moment. But we also understand, if you practice, that delusions are endless. So we make a vow to see through all of them. This is where don't know mind comes in. So it's not like something, you practice for a certain amount of years, or you pass a certain amount of kongans, and then there's no more delusions. Every moment there's a delusion. So how can we see through it? That's the part that's maybe challenging for some, right? Because they think, wow, I've been practicing for so long. Why does the delusion keep appearing? That's just part of the human condition. So our job is to keep a don't know mind to see through it. All right, I know there's questions here, so let's take a look. And I'll talk about maybe don't know mind in a bit. See, so earlier, before the stream started, there's a question: when mind opens whole, world opens and becomes much bigger than it seemed to be before, and much more interesting. How do I handle all of this when body becomes older? So that in itself is a very interesting statement, because your mind is this world. So it can't become bigger and it can't become smaller. It's just this moment. And when your body gets older, it's just like when you get sick, what do? You rest, you drink some tea, you try to eat well, maybe you exercise. So all of the practice means is what is happening right now. So sometimes it's talking about what is the situation in this moment? What is my relationship to this situation at this moment? And then the function part, or what we do, is very clear. So that doesn't matter how old you are. In fact, in original nature, there is no older or younger. It's always about what's happening now, how can I help? There's nothing else happening here. All right, let me go through the chat. There's a lot going on here. Matthew. Okay, Matthew was talking about being he's at the 108-day quantum hermit in Indiana, Dunes National Park. Question for Vivian. You can't see the questions, right?
No, I don't see anything.
As a scientist, it is what is this, Kleisha? Kleisha. A conditioning to dissect, name, or label objects. These habits are hindrances to Dharma practice. I don't know if these are two separate questions or if you're just asking one question. I'm not sure what you're saying in this first part. These habits are hindrances to Dharma practice. Okay. Any advice on clear mind? Don't know. Zen practice for those who intellectualize for a living. Okay, I get it now. So again, I'm thinking of the teachings of Hui Ning, which actually the Quantum School of Zen comes from this teaching. And the line he heard, by the way, so this is the person who heard the Diamond Sutra, the line in the Diamond Sutra that kind of his mind opened up, Hui Nang. And he said, don't attach to anything that arises in the mind. There's nothing wrong with thinking. There's nothing wrong with being intellectual. There's nothing wrong with being smart. There's nothing wrong with reading sutras. There's nothing wrong with sitting Zen. Our problem is the holding of these things. The holding of anything blinds us. Even if you're holding a meditation experience, whatever level you're on, it can be a deep meditation experience. It can be a shallow one. Really doesn't matter. The problem with us is we're attaching or holding an experience, whether it's a pleasant one or bad one. Some of you know that I might have shared the story. When I did a 90-day solo retreat, I was having a lot of unusual experiences. I just talked about this at Empty Gate Zen Center Dharma talk. That's why it sounds familiar. So if you were at the talk a couple of weeks ago, you might have heard this. But during this 90-day retreat, the first month of the retreat was very difficult. I mean, it was painful. I was by myself, which I haven't been alone for that period of time before. But also at night, I was having a very unpleasant experience. So I had candles on during sitting meditation because I couldn't, had no electricity, so I had to see the floor. So I had the candles on during the evening sitting, and I felt that there was something behind me. And this went on every night. And I kept looking back. Okay, there's nothing there. So I go back and sitting, keep looking back. Okay, there's nothing there. And I just remember what my teacher told me. He says, the schedule is your teacher, so just follow the schedule no matter what. I said, okay, I'll try. So I just did that every time, even though I didn't like that experience. In fact, I named it the demon. That's what it felt like. Even one time it felt like there was like this hand on my shoulder. It was very creepy. So obviously I did not like that experience, but I didn't do anything with it. I was surprised. Like I wasn't trying to make it go away. I wasn't trying to feed it. I was just following the schedule. Then like 3 maybe 2 weeks. I can't remember how long. It disappeared. No more demon. So I was like, okay. And then in the second month of the retreat, something else happened. It was like this very deep, blissful sitting meditation experience, right? This is the one that we all want, or this is the one maybe we read in a book. In fact, time and space disappeared. I looked at my watch and I was like, oh my God, I was supposed to do walking meditation an hour and a half ago. But guess what? Never came back. But I liked that experience. That one was good. So I was trying to think, what was I doing to get that experience? So I was trying to recreate it. Was I sitting a certain way? Was I doing a mantra a certain speed? Was I breathing a certain way? Never came back. I kept trying. Then I realized that was the new demon. So it could be a blissful experience or one that's difficult. It's the same, actually. And this is what I realized at the third month of the retreat, that both of those experiences were exactly the same, meaning it had no self-permanent concrete nature. I just happen to prefer one and not the other. So this is a problem with human suffering and why human beings suffer. I like this, so I'm going to hold it. I don't like this, so I'm going to get rid of it. That is the definition of suffering or dissatisfaction. So don't know mind means not holding any kind of experience, no matter what it is, right? Seeing through the delusions of ourselves and this world. Then everything becomes very clear. So if we don't hold anything, then we can see what's available right now in this moment. So if you're intellectual or you're very smart, well, use it to help this world. In fact, that's what Zen Master Sung Song's key teaching was, are you using your karma to help other people? Or is your karma using you? He didn't say get rid of your karma or make your bad karma to good karma. Can you use it right now in this moment? So none of these things are a problem. It's the holding that is. Liz says, thank you, Vivian. Wojciech is, what is the title of the book about quantum mechanics? Vivian, you mentioned at the beginning. What's the name?
Yeah, it's a it's a French book. That's before I went to the US, so I didn't speak English at that time. I was reading in French. It's let me think about it, and
no problem.
I'll tell you. Yeah.
Well, no. So Michael showed up. Michael from New Jersey says, thank you, Vivian, for your lessons. Michael arrived late, so and wanted to know what drew you to Zen practice. I think you talked about it a little bit. Maybe you can summarize real quick for Michael.
Yeah. Well, the quantum Zen, I'm going to, well, let's talk about the quantum Zen. It's the approach of the don't know mind that clicked with me and was kind of a response to what I was looking for, meaning emptiness. Because in quantum physics, we say consciousness creates reality. You can go deeper in the infinitely small, and what is there? Emptiness. So we realize that basically the subject and the object become one. So your consciousness creates. So is that the similarity between quantum physics and Zen that was for me intriguing. The first time I heard about Zen was from this book that Liz mentioned about quantum physics and Zen are the same. They both question the reality we live in. And at that time, I was obsessed with what the meaning of life. I was going through a severe existential crisis. The world looked like a zombie land for me. I didn't see any death, really. Yeah, so that was for me a way to...
Good. Yeah. Thank you, Michael. Any other questions before we go today?
Oh, Liz. Joël de Ronet is a French biologist, scientist. I don't know if he's still alive, but Joël de Ronet.
I think Wojciech was asking that question. What's the name? I put it in the chat.
Oh, I'm sorry. I said Liz. Okay.
What is the name of it?
The title of the name of the writer, the scientist is Joël, Joel, De Ronay, it's DE
Okay.
and RONAY, I think.
All right. Type that in Google.
Yeah, Joël de Ronay. Yeah. He talks now about epigenetics and a lot more things. Very interesting.
Okay. Wojciech says, thank you. You're welcome. Anything else before we go? This is a kind of experiment here. Doing a live stream in this way. Some of you know, if you're part of the Quantum Online Sangha, that I meet with people and talk about their practice, but we stream in the Mighty Networks community. So the Quantum Online Sangha has a little community hosted by Mighty Networks where we can chat and share things and videos and pictures and things like that. Also our practice. And we've been streaming inside of that platform just to kind of meet with people and talk about practice. But this is our first time streaming on the YouTube channel. So it's a little bit different. Usually, Vivian, when we give talks, you can see people's faces, even if it's online. At a Zen center, you're giving the talk and then you can see everybody. So there's a lot more interaction happening. But also, most of our talks in our school, if they're online, that happens through Zoom. So we're really testing kind of the streaming part of this to see if it's helpful. And also just to connect with other people. I forgot how many, couple thousand or more people who follow the Quantum School of Zen on YouTube. So maybe connecting with you all and seeing if this is helpful. And if it is, we'll keep doing more. Okay, I hope you do it again. This is very helpful and interesting. Very good. All right, any last questions before we go? Kevin, do you have a favorite go-to book about Zen you might recommend? A go-to book. Well, I could only remember the first book I read was Dropping Ashes on the Buddha. Now, I don't know. In some ways that was helpful. When you read that kind of book, Dropping Ashes on the Buddha is a book written by Zen Master Sungsong. Actually, he never wrote a book, but it was talks and exchanges that was gathered into a book. But a lot of the stuff, I didn't know what was happening in that book. But I found that very helpful because when I read it, I kept the don't know mind, right? Like, what does this mean? I'm not really sure. And later, as I started practicing, that book started to make more sense. But something that was helpful that I liked from Zen Master Sungsong was only don't know, because these are like very clear questions about all kinds of subjects. And it's broken up to like work, relationships, practice, things like this. But it puts it kind of Zen into an everyday moment to moment in your life kind of situation. So I really appreciate that book. Vivian, do you have a favorite go-to Zen book?
No, I started with the same, just like you, Dropping Ashes on the Buddha, and I love the forward, and at the end also when he summarizes. No, it's good. I would say it's.
Yeah, I wrote a book called No Nonsense Zen for Beginners. So if you're new to Zen, that may be helpful. I haven't read the final copy, so I can't vouch for that. But a lot of people have said it's been helpful for even people who are not even familiar with Zen.
But I would say even for us who have been, let's say, practicing for years, it's good to go back to the beginning. That's very, very essential.
I think it is. Yeah.
Yeah. So I would recommend it. Absolutely.
I think a lot of the time, we forget how to practice, even though we go through the motions, especially if you've been doing it for several years. But what's the essence of it? What are we actually doing? We talk about don't know mind or keeping a clear mind or letting it go. What does that actually mean?
Exactly.
How do you do that? That's really the point.
And also, when I would love to hear you guys, teachers, once in a while, tell us, how do you feel really that you are in your core, or you are centered, grounded? These are basic questions, but
it's kind of like, it's like the teaching. If when you drink the water, you know for yourself if it's hot or cold. It's just like that. And it's so simple and basic that nobody believes it. That's why what's the saying or the teaching in Zen? Before enlightenment, chopping wood, carrying water. after enlightenment, chopping wood, carrying water. It's your
Mhm.
everyday moment in life. But we want something else. So that's why we can't see it. That's what the Huineng was talking about. We are ignoring the simplicity of the truth of this moment. And it's that simple fact makes a huge impact on our lives and those around us. So it's a
There's
problem.
one thing that I experience, and many people talk about it, is that it's true. When you are in fear or in a fight and flight mode, whatever, something stressful or fear, you do feel your contraction of your
Mm.
body, your energy. And when you are peaceful, when you are in a more joyful or whatever state, you do feel expansion. You feel that you are more connected to things.
Yeah.
So
And that,
this,
well, that word joyful is interesting. Can you be joyful when everything's falling apart?
you
Where to
see,
find that joyful? Like
yeah.
I was in my son's class. I made a video about this coming out tomorrow, but 2 days ago I was in my son's class, and we volunteer, my wife and I. And usually when I go on Tuesdays, it's to help. Usually they're doing math problems, but I went in there. I had no idea what they were doing. It's like I did not understand what they were doing, right? So the first thing was like a little bit of panic, like I'm supposed to help these kids. I can't even solve these math problems. Right? So a little like panic and a little anxiety came up, right? And also maybe a little embarrassment. Here I am, the adult. I don't know what's going on in here. Yeah, these are 11-year-old kids we're talking about, right? Doing these math problems. So where's the joy in that? And I think we have to be clear about when we use those words. Can we find the openness in these kinds of moments to be with it and
Mhm.
not try to push it away? Because one thing I did is just kind of shifted the direction. So we talked about don't know mind. So keeping like, you know what? I don't know. And that's okay. Because it's always this like little self or ego that gets in the way. I don't know this. I can't do this. I am embarrassed. I feel whatever we say, right? That checking mind that you mentioned,
Mhm.
that's part of the delusions are endless, always appearing. So we either put energy into that and it gets stronger, or we question it. What is that? I don't know what this is. I don't know what's going on. Something really opened up when I did that. Then I asked one of the kids, how did you solve this? And then they showed me, then I learned something. I asked the teacher, how did you do this? Because this person does it this way. They did it a different way. And it still wasn't very clear to me. And then when I got home, I was kind of looking at it with my son. And then I was like, boom, I remembered how to do it from who knows how long ago. So when we're talking about don't know mind, can we be open when things are not going our way? When
Yeah.
we're sad, when we're angry, when we're happy? Because I think that's where we say sometimes you hear this teaching comes from Zen Master Sung Song, follow situation, true happiness. But it doesn't mean you feel good all the time. It
Mhm.
just means that it's enough in this moment. And we're open to the human experience and using that experience to help this world. All right, there's a lot going on in the chat. So let me just fix this up. We have about 5 minutes. Let me see if I get a different person, make sure someone else, if they have any questions here. Thank you, Vivian. Um, Someone's recommending Thich Nhat Hanh's book on Buddhism and also The Compass of Zen. Compass of Zen is good. If you like studied Buddhism and you are kind of intellectual, I love that book because he really puts it down into very simple everyday life situations, even if the topic is complex. Kevin, thank you for that. Life Flow, Instant Zen. Okay, complete audiobook is on YouTube. All right, thank you for the recommendation. Matthew, I will tell you how Satori feels when you eat the picture of banana. Okay, that was a quote. Actually, this teaching comes from Huineng. The reason why I know this is I've been reading the sutra, but he says a picture of food will not satisfy your hunger. I think you mentioned this, Vivian, about our understanding and the words we use. They're all pointing to an experience, your experience, not the Buddha's, not Zen Master Sung Song's, not mine or Vivian's, your experience in this moment, because that's what's going to help your life. Let's see. Michael, this I, me, my person sounds really important. Sure does. It sounds really important. Janice, thank you for your practice. I'll go back to Wojciech. We have many forms of practice, but in fact, our sessions are very orthodox, always the same. Is there room, any space for heresy? You know, people attach to the forms in two ways. They either like the forms or they don't like the forms. And there's always talk about the school forms. You know, maybe we shouldn't wear robes. Maybe we should do less chanting and more sitting. I think, you know, first of all, every tradition has their own set of forms that they come with, and they connect with different people. So the Buddha said that he has, well, it's meant to say 84,000 kinds of teaching to connect with 84,000 kinds of minds. I thought that's interesting. So there's many different forms of Buddhism and in Zen, and it's also culturally based, right? Japanese Zen, Korean Zen. But if you really look at the bigger picture, Buddha saw a star, realized enlightenment. So what kind of Buddhism was that? So all of the forms we have are pointing to something. And usually what it points to in the beginning is your like and dislike mind. I had it. Sometimes I liked the forms, sometimes I didn't. You can attach to the forms or you can use the forms. In fact, my first 1 month retreat in the Providence Zen Center was summer. I was the Moktak master. Never been to the Zen Center before. So I was the Moktak master, and my teacher was leading the retreat, and he was always correcting me, like for the smallest things. Like you're playing the chanting. It's a little too fast. Can you slow it down a little? Okay. You're keeping your head too high. You're losing a lot of energy. Keep your chin down. Okay. When you're walking back from the altar, taking 3 steps, they're very big, smaller steps. Then I was like getting pissed. Like, what the hell's wrong with this person? I thought there was something wrong with them. And then I just like, well, this is my first retreat. I'm just going to try and follow the schedule. What I noticed is that throughout that retreat, I noticed I started paying attention a little more to when I picked up the smoke talk. This is a wooden instrument that we use for chanting, to picking it up during the chanting, bowing during the chanting, putting the Mok Talk back on the altar, walking up to the altar, taking 3 steps back. I noticed that I was paying attention to everything in that moment, which later too extended to other parts of the retreat. When I was eating, when I was doing laundry, when I was hitting the big bell outside, when I was cooking for the lunch for the retreat. And then I learned, oh, the forms are pointing to something as well. We can either attach to them or use them. Because the other side of that is I hated the form when I went to, Singapore. So I was a monk at the time. And this is when Zen Master Sungsong passed away, right before I was flying over there. So when I got there, my teacher and the teacher, Gemun Sanin, Jiro Palpsa, were gone. They were in Korea. So I was by myself with the Sangha there. And they were asking me, hey, can you give a talk? And can you do this? And I'm like, whatever, sure. So after the Dharma talk, this is their form. Everybody after the talk, one by one, would come up, bow to me, and hand me an envelope full of money. And I hated it. Like, I just did not like that. I don't like to be in that kind of position. So I almost, like the first person, I was like, oh, that's okay. Don't, no, not necessary. But I realized I saw like the sincerity in that person's eyes. And right when I was about to say it, I just stopped. I was like, that's the form, or that's the situation at this moment in this different country that I'm not familiar with. So I think it's helpful to follow the form wherever you are, because most of us could only follow the form what we like. I like these certain people, so I'm going to just hang out with them, or I like to go here and I don't like to go there, right? We're kind of very limited. Our mind is very limited, so we can't really follow the situation in our lives. Something goes wrong at work or something we don't like at work, then we overreact and we cause a big problem. Rather than perceiving each moment, following the situation, then you're free because you're not being controlled by your like and dislike mind. So if we change the forms or don't, I don't think really matters. It's just the way they are. Some people connect with them, some people don't. Some people don't think we do enough form or religious things, so they go to a different kind of Buddhist tradition that does more ceremonies and more things. Okay, that's fine. But how's that helping your life? How's that, as Vivian said, how's that helping us wake up to this moment, perceive what's happening, and do something helpful? That's really the point of all Buddhist practice. Okay, I think that's enough. All right, so people are saying that this was good, so we'll keep that in mind. There will be recording of this. It's being recorded automatically, I believe. So this will be on the Quantum School of Zen YouTube channel. Will be on there. And Vivian, thank you so much for doing the first online Dharma Talk stream.
Yeah, thank you all. It's really a pleasure to share with everybody.
Yeah, you too. It's it's the first time. It's a little unusual because we're either looking at each other or just looking at a camera, so we can't see anybody here. So it's a different kind of format. I'm kind of used to this format. I think you've done this too for like podcasts and things like that. So anyways, thank you everyone for your questions. Thank you for your feedback. Thank you for coming to this first talk here, and we hope we do more later. Okay, everyone.
Good.
Everyone's saying thank you, Vivian. Thank you, Jason.
Thank you.
More would be great. Okay, we'll keep that in mind. Have a clear day, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.